Grant, hot on the heels of the deep dive report into copper, you've now addressed the outlook for aluminium in a detailed report that's out today. It seems to me there's a few parallels between the two metals in terms of pricing, supply, demand, and some of the catalysts. Could you take us through some of the highlights, please?
Sure, thank you. So the aluminium industry has fairly low barriers to entry, with the mined raw material bauxite relatively plentiful in the Earth's crust. And that tends to result in a well to oversupplied market most of the time. So the 2021 and 2022, when the market was actually in a deficit, is not really the norm. I think that changes. So over the next 3 years, we could see a more normal market with surpluses keeping a lid on prices. And really, it's a combination of relatively tepid demand growth in 2023 and 2024 as the world outside of China grapples with high interest rate and China's property market remains in the doldrums. And that meets rising supply from China itself and other countries like Indonesia. But over the medium term, as with copper, the outlook does improve. Because although aluminium is not really seen as a transition metal from a purist perspective, it is now very competitively priced versus copper and can play a vital role in decarbonization by lightweighting, particularly in transport systems. And that could drive a secular demand uplift. And, demand growth could be above the long run trend. And then furthermore, China's put a hard cap on its capacity at about 45 million tons, which means the Chinese producers have to look offshore to develop capacity. And that adds a level of complexity to their expansion plans. And outside of China, we've got the metal's very power hungry. It's got a heavy CO2 footprint. And that's going to be a key consideration with any new capacity only likely to be built if renewable power can be sourced.
And with all these things, as ever, all eyes are on China, but there are other countries that do have a say in this. So there's India, Indonesia, for example, all embarking on new projects, and Europe potentially curtailing capacity. So perhaps you could run through your scenarios that encapsulates these issues.
Sure. So let's start with India and Indonesia. Look, they're adding significant capacity in alumina, which is really the intermediate product that is needed to produce aluminium. So, according to our sort of analysis, this market could be well oversupplied. And that's actually likely to be a deflationary driver on the price of metals itself. On the metal balance itself, we've considered two scenarios on supply. The first is the extent of capacity restart. So, particularly in Europe. So during Europe's energy crisis, about 1.4 million tons, or about 2% of global capacity, was actually curtailed. Now, smelters are confident that Europe can avoid another power crunch, particularly over the medium term, and most of this capacity is restarted, then the market can be in a much more significant surplus than we have. So instead of just a modest surplus, around 400 to 500,000 tons. On the flip side, if China's Yunnan, Guangxi, and Sichuan provinces experience another drought, which constrains their hydropower output, that could lead to shuts or at the very least a delay in the ramp-up of new capacity as power in those provinces are rationed. And these provinces account for roughly 20% of China's output. And depending on the scale of shuts, the aluminium market could easily then flip into a deficit of around 300,000 tons over the next 2 years.
And then the final thing, catalysts. What should we be looking out for?
Okay, so on the demand side, we have the China National People's Congress in March, and that sets the tone and direction of economic growth. And we expect new energy vehicles to be a key focus, as well as supportive measures for the property market. And then in the medium term, we have China's 15th five-year plan, again setting the tone for demand, but also any supply-side reforms. That's in early 2025. And we could see, this could entail a much tougher carbon tax environment, which again would be supportive. On the supply side, between now and March, the major aluminium producers such as Alcoa, Norsk Hydro, will provide output guidance for 2024. And then particularly in July and August, as I mentioned previously, the hydropower situation in China in the dry season is particularly influential in Yunnan's aluminium output. So that's also another key thing to watch out for.
Grant, appreciate your time. Look forward to following this and copper for that matter as well. Thank you.